How to survive a war. Despite reassurances, many people still live or have lived in fear of the ravages of war. If you are keen to know how to survive during war, but don't know how, here is where you can learn how to protect yourself and others during a war. Taking everything to consideration. Know the area. Is it safe for you to move into a different territory? Does it have fallout shelters or reliable sources of supplies? Of course, planning ahead can be most reliable because if a person knows everything about a place, it can be an advantage point. The following are the two common environments of survival, urban and rural. Both are discussed in the following steps. wh.performance.mark Step 1_rendered. Be aware that urban cultures prove very difficult living conditions during pre-war, wartime, and post-war times. The huge population living in a city can't always run from war. Sickness, disease, low supplies, and no food or water make conditions terrible to live in. However, there is an advantage to being in an urban area. Empty homes and buildings provide concealment and cover, and they can hold large camps for soldiers or civilians caught up in the violence. You can also build anything from materials found or recycled from homes, which can protect a city or build more camps when the area is under siege. Disadvantages include: panic is obviously an issue, and while ridiculous and unorganized, it happens, applies to early hours, there may be hundreds, possibly millions, of dead people, this presents a problem for health, and it smells too. Applies all the time, the place is a magnet for survivors, applies after things have settled down, the debris left behind is a recipe for a very noisy day, applies after things have settled down, looters are everywhere. Applies all the time. Know what to expect in a rural environment. This is where food is made, raw materials are produced, military bases are built, and the greatest weapon mankind has made, nukes, are in the rural zone, one of the most safest places you can be for a while. The low density makes it ideal for survival, but the skill and knowledge that people know in the rural zone makes it difficult for urban survivors, unless you can match that. The advantages include: food is produced here, thus allowing a source of food, applies depending on conditions. Bombs have very low chance of hitting here, unless a nuclear silo is present, applies rarely, depending on conditions, the raw materials are usually produced here. Applies depending on conditions, somebody is bound to know some sort of skill that aids survival, applies depending on area present. Be aware of the disadvantages of the rural situation too. These include: living near a nuclear silo, just get out of there, looters that may or may not have experience on the rural zone, applies depending on conditions, an ideal place for any sort of survivor, applies all the time. Consider the population. The population, or POP for short, is an important factor. Start studying the people who live in your area. Are they psychopaths? Kleptomaniacs? Survivalists? Extremists? Whatever they may be, learning the nature of the people is important. You never know if they have some sort of skill you don't know, or maybe they have a history of something that can be potentially lethal. Plan things out. History shows that a well-thought-out plan often has success. Through demonstrations, it is proven true. It holds true to this day. So start planning for the incoming wars. Taking everything in consideration. The following are examples. Manpower. The resource is abundant in the pre-war phase, so you need to take this while you still can. Find as many people you trust as you can. Supplies. So little can be found in the war zone. You need as many supplies as possible to survive, but don't focus on just gathering supplies, focus on finding a reliable source of supply production too. Skill. Somebody needs to have a skill on something, otherwise the group can't survive enough.